In December 1688, King James II dropped the Great Seal into the River Thames, effectively halting the legal machinery of the English state. The events of that year functioned as a highly coordinated hostile takeover engineered by the English elite. The target of this maneuver was King James II. He sought to bypass Parliament, the institutional board of directors, to establish a centralized absolutist model patterned after the French state. He utilized his royal prerogative to suspend the Test Acts, allowing him to rule by executive decree without the consent of Parliament. He followed this by purging local corporations and packing the legislature with loyalists to create a permanent royal electoral machine. To secure these changes, he maintained a professional standing army at Hounslow during peacetime, positioning troops specifically to overawe domestic opposition. These combined actions constituted a rogue executive systematically dismantling the state's structural integrity, forcing the elite to initiate a coup. In June 1688, a coalition of 7 figures convened in secret. They drafted the invitation to William as a calculated summons to a foreign executive. The 7 signatories represented the core of the English establishment: army, navy, the Anglican Church, and the leadership of Whig and Tory factions. This cross-section proved the power infrastructure of England was formally withdrawing confidence in the king. The executive they invited to lead the takeover was William of Orange. William's motivation was geostrategic. He required English naval and financial resources for his impending war against France. The invitation provided William the domestic political cover he needed to execute a foreign invasion without uniting the English populace against him. In November 1688, an invading Dutch fleet of unprecedented size and scale entered the Grey English Channel. The crossing was a masterpiece of military logistics and calculated operational timing, utilizing the wind to trap the English navy while accelerating the Dutch advance. The force consisted of 463 ships carrying 40,000 men, including 11,000 foot soldiers and 4,000 cavalry. This scale was significantly larger than the Spanish Armada of the previous century. William committed nearly half of the entire Dutch state's army to this single operation. He deployed this overwhelming force specifically to deter resistance and force a quick capitulation rather than fighting a protracted civil war. To ensure his troops did not alienate the public by looting, William paid them 3 months in advance and used private contractors for all supplies. While William moved, James II kept his defensive fleet at Chatham Dockyard, where the winds trapped his ships and prevented an interception. William landed unopposed at Brixham on November 5th. This logistical preparation effectively paralyzed the English military apparatus before a major battle could be fought. Alongside the physical troops, William deployed a parallel weapon: psychological warfare. His primary tool was the Declaration of The Hague. 60,000 copies were systematically distributed across England ahead of the army's arrival. In the text, William claimed he was not seeking the crown, but merely arriving to secure a free parliament and investigate the legitimacy of the royal heir. This messaging created a permission structure that allowed English officers to defect under the guise of protecting the law rather than committing treason. The result was the disintegration of James's command structure, highlighted by the defection of his top commander, Lord Churchill. Facing these systemic and sudden desertions, King James panicked and fled toward France. The combination of overwhelming physical force and surgical information warfare neutralized the executive branch from the inside out. By December 1688, James's authority had collapsed, leaving a power vacuum in the streets of London. William allowed James to successfully escape to France on his second attempt, intentionally avoiding the creation of a Catholic martyr. In January 1689, a convention parliament met to solve a legal crisis: how to replace a monarch without endorsing an illegal rebellion. They utilized a legal fiction, decreeing that James dropping the seal and fleeing the country constituted a voluntary abdication. This loophole allowed Parliament to declare the throne vacant, granting them the authority to appoint a successor. William then forced the settlement by threatening to return to Holland unless he and Mary were installed as joint monarchs, refusing the lesser role of regent. This maneuver permanently shifted the source of sovereign power from divine birthright to parliamentary consent. The resulting constitutional settlement defined the new state. The Bill of Rights of 1689 functioned as a rigid, non-negotiable employment contract for the incoming monarchs. It permanently stripped the executive's power to suspend laws by regal authority. It prohibited the executive from levying taxes without explicit grants from Parliament. It made it illegal for the Crown to raise or keep a standing army during peacetime without Parliament's consent. These provisions made the executive branch legally and financially subordinate to the legislative board. These legal parameters served as the direct template for the American founding and subsequent constitutional statecraft. The joint coronation of William and Mary served as the finalization of a pragmatic business merger. The takeover of 1688